Welcome to the Sea Life Different Virtual Summit. My name is Yaqutullah Muhammad, and I am the host of the Sea Life Different Virtual Summit. The Sea Life Different Summit was created by me in 2021 after pivoting from the book called Seeing Life Through a Different Lens. It was based off of a book, based off of a podcast, and now it's a summit, which also in turn will become a regular thing. I am Zakir, and I have over a decade of experience of empowering women to literally see life differently. I share my story confidently as a cancer survivor of a rare childhood eye cancer. And ever since then, I've been empowering other women. I've been walking in my purpose, and today is your day and your time to shine. So I am going to introduce Yaqutullah Muhammad before we bring her on for a conversation. So I may or may not have shared that March is Women's History Month. March is also, I believe, it's a nutritionist month because we just had Registered Dietitian Day, and it's also the launch of 4-year anniversary of my own podcast, which now has over 100 episodes that talk about all of the things: nutrition, wellness, mindfulness, you name it. And so this is a complete honor to have her through all of the pivots that this event was supposed to be. Went from 2021 was fully virtual to was supposed to be in person in Atlanta because I'm literally right here in Atlanta from my sister's house in Atlanta, making this happen. Thank goodness for my sister. And Yaqutullah is also right here based in Atlanta, Georgia. So I was super excited to, if we were gonna have it in person, I was gonna get to hug her. But now we're gonna virtually hug. Now we're gonna virtually give her a hug. So let me go ahead and give her introduction so you have the rundown of who she is. Okay. So Yaqutullah Muhammad is the founder and owner of Nutrition Prescription, a nutrition consulting practice that specializes in recipe development and analysis, nutrition education, and women's wellness. Yaqutullah has almost 2 decades of experience in dietetics, diet. Oh, sorry, I always get a tongue twister. My childhood best friend always gets on me about this because she's an RD too. Anyway, in nutrition, and she works with patients and clients to improve their health related to chronic illness. And she offers all of the things. So she helps you with healthy recipes, interactive nutrition education, and she's so powerful about passionate about nutrition. And she's actually going to break down her story of why she's so passionate about it. Because we just talked about that, right? Your story. What part of your story makes you choose the direction you want to go in your career? So she empowers you to learn and apply evidence-based nutrition to every aspect of your life, including understanding the connection between faith, health, and wellness. So without further ado, Yaqutullah Muhammad.
Hey, greetings everyone. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Hey, happy afternoon. We're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank
We actually just came from a gratitude walk at the Bryant Baker Lake on McAfee, we're talking about how important it is to stay focused and consistent on what your goals are. And my goal was to at least get 3 miles in today. So when we got up, we were like, all right, we really need to get it done because we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like, right? And there's no better time than today, really. So,
Yeah, and I
um,
love that about you, though. I love that about you because you can tell us more. But when I think when we first got connected on social media, you were training for a marathon. I think you really enjoy the
half
outdoors,
marathon,
the
yeah.
exercises. So tell us more about that.
Oh, the half marathon. Our first half marathon was I think it was the Big Dog Marathon in Columbus, Georgia. This was back in, it had to be 2000, was it 2011, 2012? So yeah, that was our first marathon in Columbus. It was flat, but it require us a significant training, and it was our first one. So it was a great experience. It definitely showed you where you are, what needs to be done and where you want to be. So it was a blessing and a pleasure to do it with my husband. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I feel like since you mentioned your husband, I feel like I want to congratulate you on just you have a is he 2 years old now?
He'll be 2 in May. Yes.
Two in May. Okay, well, congratulations on that. And I want you to find a way to just intertwine your story with how did you get here to be the amazing nutritionist that you are now?
Okay. Well, I started in 2005, Georgia State University, and then I did a master's program and graduated in 2007. So it was interesting because before that, we lived in South Georgia. So our family owned about 4 acres of land, and my dad was a butcher, and he was a farmer. And I have great memories of really just growing up with animals and a farm and vegetables and having to be a part of that process, even growing up. Like getting out there and helping with the harvest, and it was just a very good experience, a very different experience than most kids have growing up. So I'm grateful and blessed to have that experience, and I think that definitely informed my choices and some of my decision around my career path as a dietitian. And a lot of people don't know this, but my dad passed of a heart attack when I was 12 years old. So seeing that, and just wondering, wow, was there something I could do, or is there something I could do, career wise, to help others. So that really got me, thinking. I got the juices flowing about, being proactive and what I could really do. So yes, definitely. And then, growing up, taking my career path and then really becoming heavily involved with, not just, my veteran patients, but my women veteran patients. And then, women in the community, and seeing, the gap, and the need, really not just for nutrition education, but for sound, culturally relevant relevant nutrition education, as it relates to women, Muslim women, women of color, and being a source of, a resource and a support, to help them on their health and wellness journey.
And I want to give you a virtual high five, but let me make sure I'm leaning. Is it that way?
Is it that?
No, it's that way.
Is it that way?
Okay, there you go. High five. And so that's amazing because that you've been able to take action, because one of the first things that I'm thinking about is not only just in my own story as well of just knowing how prominent diabetes is. Diabetes can be passed down, and actually in my own family history, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, passed of cancer,
Oh
right?
wow, my
And so
condolences.
it's like, how can we continue to see nutrition differently, not just to eat to nourish, but how can we really see nutrition differently?
So a lot of it is really looking at where you're starting. What are your goals? Where do you want to be? And I ask all my clients this, right? When we do, intakes, we do, our discovery call. I basically ask them, where do you want to be? What's one of the biggest struggles you have? What's the missing piece in your strategy, right? What do you want, really? And let them fill in the blanks, right? And then that helps to inform me, how I can better serve, how I can bring, resources and value, to help solve, the or provide a solution, and really just looking at it, as a investment, as a way of improving your overall quality of living. It's interesting because a lot of people say, oh well, we're all going to die, or none of us are going to get out of here alive. But it's also about the best quality of life that you can have, right? And I see so many people, yeah, they're living, but they're not thriving. So you want to ask yourself, what can I do to improve my quality of life so that I can thrive? That's what I want to be, right? That's where I want to be. I want to thrive. I want to live my best. I want to be here for my family. I want to feel good when I get up in the morning. I want to be able to take a run, take a stroll. You know what I mean? And then looking at, where do you want to be and what does that require on your part. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It really doesn't have to be difficult. It's interesting because, I had patients, with diabetes, of course, and they all come to me and they're like, I don't, want to be on insulin, or I don't want to be on medication forever. That's a decision you have to make, right? That's a conscious effort. It's a conscious decision you have to make and ask yourself, what do I need to do? Right? Because it is possible to come off medication, but you got to want it, right? You got to want to do the work, right? You got to know what needs to be done and then have somebody there who can help guide that process, right?
Yeah. And so that's what's resonating with me the most because in my book, Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, we kind of start there. My mom, starts this writing. First, she observed that after my radiation treatment, I just was not eating. So she actually went to an herbalist that was able to find herbs, mix it in a smoothie so I don't get distracted by it because here I am, not even 1 year old, being able to start that young with herbs and making that intentional choice. So then it was a whole different choice. By the time I turned 18, they were like, okay, no, I am going to choose to be, 98%, vegan. So what was that decision? When did you first start and what did you, what was that roller coaster experience like to make that decision to choose to eat healthy?
I mean, it's a daily decision. You know what I mean? It's like I said, it's about where you want to be, how you want to feel, identifying foods that you enjoy, foods that you like. Because one thing I'm not going to tell you is to eat a food you don't like, right? But I'm going to encourage you to explore different foods. So many of us, the exploration piece of it, like, hey, let's try different ways to prepare a food, or let's try different foods that we haven't tried before. At least try it once to see if you like it. You know what I mean? I have people say, well, I don't know what that is. What is that, right? So I actually take them to through the process of what it is. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is how you can prepare it. Try it out and see if you like it, right? And then really looking at where they are as a person, right? Taking into consideration not just okay, what do I look like, but how do you feel, right? And what matters to you, right? Where do you want to be, right? And then steps to get you there, right? To identify specifically what your nutrition strategy could look like, right? So that it can actually fit you. It's not for everybody else, right? It's personalized for you. So that's really what we strive to do.
I love that, and I'm starting to get some ideas of what the audience questions would be like, especially for those who are chronically ill, who have, for example, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and how does your story also intertwine with those who um, polycystic ovarian syndrome, any autoimmune illness, to really once again, I feel like that's the theme. See life differently with their nutrition.
Seeing it differently, really surrounding yourself with those who can help you see what it might look like differently, right? Help you explore opportunities, help you explore the positives, help you explore what you can control, what you actually have control over. That's a big piece of it. Because sometimes, with chronic illness, you feel like, oh, I don't have any control over anything. I just have to make these doctor's appointments, or, they tell me to eat this, but, what are my other options? And having someone who can actually explore what those options look like, right? Who's open, who's invested in exploring what those options look like, right? And just being able to, help you, down that path, help you explore what your nutrition strategy could actually look like, right? Tips, recipes, really what does that strategy look like? I came up, there's this plan I did, and it basically, identified, several foods, anti-inflammatory, different foods as part of a meal plan. But it was interactive, right? So it's a meal plan that you get, and it has like 7 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. But then it also has hyperlinks on each food. So if you were to click breakfast or lunch or dinner or soup or salad or whatever, it would actually take you to other options based on, what your dietary prescription is, right? What your nutrition prescription is. So, vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, things like that. So it's really, I find that it really resonates with my clients because it allows them to see life differently. There you go. It allows them to identify additional options, right? There's no one size fits all. There's no cookie cutter answer, right? And sometimes we have to pivot. We have to kind of navigate based on what life throws us, right? And being open to the possibility, I think, is a big piece of it.
Yeah, that's what's crucial. And what's coming up for me is the YouTube gurus, right? There's so many that will go to YouTube. They want to handle it themselves. They want to watch the films, like what the health. They want to, subscribe to the magazine called Forks Over Knives, for example. But what's your honest opinion about those type of scenarios, right? Those type of people who every single year, New Year's, it's New Year, the new quarter, new solstice, and they're like, I'm gonna eat healthily. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. What is your honest opinion about those?
I think the people who want to get healthy every year, that's great. I want you to be healthy every year, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of good information out there, right? But you want to make sure that you align yourself with information that is beneficial to you, right? Information that's evidence-based, information that has been vetted, right? Information that's actually beneficial to you and won't be a detriment to you, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that'll sell you things, right? If you're going to buy it, right? But at the same time, you do have a lot of really great, information out there. You have a lot of great reading materials and things like that. But I think it's really interesting or really important that you align yourself with someone who can actually help you navigate kind of navigate those waters, right? So yeah, you want to be healthy every year, that's fine. You want to be healthy, but you don't want to jump off and jump on and jump off, right? You want to make sure that yes, you're open to exploration, but ultimately you find something that is sustainable for you. So you're not having to jump on and off every January, right? And it becomes more of a sustainable lifestyle. That's the goal, right? You find kind of what works for you, and you use that strategy. You can add to it, you can take from it, but you want to make sure that it is something of a consistent or solid foundation, right? So I think that's what we look for in life.
I love that. And so, what aside from your own resources, but maybe think back to when you were still um, growing into the RD that you are today. What are some of those resources that really helped you along your journey?
Wow, help me explore. There's a lot of resources out there. I really, really loved, of course, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They have a lot of great resources, especially for, education. Really diversified dietetics is another organization that actually has some really great information, some really great resources, especially when it comes to educating your clients from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, people of color. So you really just want to look at what's actually out there and what resonates with you based on where you are in your journey. Like, what can you take, right, from the good that's going to benefit you, and be willing and able to leave what does not benefit you, right? And then making sure, you journal it, you write about it, you really think about how your nutrition makes you feel, right? How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you not feel good? And what needs to be changed about that, right? So what does that journey look like for you?
Mhm. Now, speaking of journey, I know fitness does play a huge role. Like even for me, I think even lately, I choose to eat healthy and not work out. But at the same time, literally just past weekend, I was out and about. Like I'm here in Atlanta and I'm out and about. And so I did both. I was moving a lot and I ate healthy. And so I slept really, really good.
I know you slept really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's in the question. Like, although you um like you're the perfect example of like utilize nature, be outside. But what are your tips for also those who are entrepreneurs who actually are in or wanting to be, they're passionate about the fitness slash health industry? What are your tips for those women?
So you're passionate, right? The question is, what are you passionate about? Like, aspect are you passionate about? Do you enjoy specific physical activity, right? And then making sure that you schedule time, because, just like eating and nourishing your body, physical activity, getting it in is also a form of self-care, right? There's a big discussion about self-care, right? So I always approach it from a standpoint of, am I dedicating time to eat well? Am I dedicating specific time to exercise? And making sure that I build that into my day, just like you build everything else into your day, right? Your health and fitness can't take the back burner to everything else that you're doing. So it's important that you schedule that out. You block time for that, even if it's just 30 minutes to get your walk in the morning. Okay, great. In the afternoon. Okay, great. Maybe you do something in home from YouTube, or you hop on your bike, right? Or you hop on your stationary, whatever your activity might look like. You might do a morning yoga session, making sure that that is something that you dedicate. That's your time, right? So in a way, you want to make sure that you block your schedule, you claim your time for whatever that is that brings you joy, right? Activity, I love to run. I walk around the lake. It's a way to recenter, refocus, and then really prepare me for whatever, the rest of my day might look like. And I find it easier to get it done earlier in the day because you don't know what your day will bring. So really consider blocking it out. Hey, this is my meeting, just like you meeting all day long, right? My meeting for me, nobody has to know what it's for. Oh, sorry, I have a standing meeting at this time. Finish in the conversation, and you make sure that that's your time to dedicate to you.
That's important right there. Just really having the meeting for me time
Mm-hmm.
and being able to keep that and not break that. I think what happens with us as women, we will bend our hips. I would say that, not even the back, bend the hip to say, oh, well, okay, so and so needs me. So, what have you observed, or even your own story? I want you to tell me more of your story of what were the moments for you where you realized you were bending your hips and almost breaking your hips, for others before you knew you had to prioritize yourself.
Hmm. Um, when you have a kid, life hits differently. So, as a mom, asking for help, ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Um, Making sure that you build your team, you build your wellness squad. You say, hey, I need help with this. Being willing and able to delegate and say, you know what? I need this run this morning. I'm going to take this run this morning, right? And looking at, identifying support within your team. I think that's really important. And it might not be a family member, it might be a friend, right? But knowing that if you don't fill your cup, if you don't fill your vase, then you can't serve anybody else. How are you going to be helpful to anybody else if you can't show up, feeling well, feeling your best, right? I feel great when I get my run in. I'm like, oh man, I can tackle the day. This is great. Whatever that looks like for you, right? Taking the time to ask yourself, what does that look like for you? Because it might look very differently for everyone, right? I remember having to reach out to my sister and said, I want to run Peachtree this year. In the first year after I had my baby. And I was like, dude, I'm going to run Peachtree. Can you please come over and keep the baby? And she did, right? But I had to plan that out. Like, know that you have to plan this stuff out. You can't just run up on it and think, oh, no. Look at what your squad looks like. Look where you can ask for help, and don't be shy about asking for help, right? Making sure that you identify what makes you feel good and doing more of it. I don't know how to stress it more than that.
Point blank period.
Bam.
Now, what maybe one recipe that, because we all have comfort food, right? We're both, Muslim women, and culturally, that comfort food is something called a navy bean pie. right?
Ooh, really? Navy bean. What? You already know that. And a large part of our community. Yeah, that could be one of them.
So what's another one?
Sweet potatoes.
Sweet potato pie?
Sweet potato souffle, sweet potato pie, what bean pie? I mean, some good. The navy bean soup is pretty good, and I've seen several versions of it.
So
um,
anything, yeah,
Comfort food, psh, mac and cheese
with actual mac and cheese.
with actual mac and cheese. I'm
Because
talking about all comfort food. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm just telling you what my clients tell me what their comfort food is.
yeah,
Yeah,
mac and cheese is still a winner,
just
and
tell them.
even lately, people have been coming to me. My own friends and family member have been coming to me about how are you eating so healthy? What do you do? What do you do? So, I mean, I'm not an OD, obviously. That's why you're here, so I can send them over to you. But, I would happily tell them, like, nutritional yeast works to me. You know,
I love nutritional yeast on popcorn.
now
Absolutely.
what is that? Maybe you can explain it. 'Cause maybe some people can answer that question. I can send them to Amazon and tell them,
You
what
said
it is.
send them to Amazon. So nutritional yeast, it's pretty good. It actually tastes pretty cheesy. It's actually very high in like B vitamins, but basically it's a seasoning. And some people prefer it because it's a vegan option. It has a cheesy flavor, but it's actually nutrient dense. So you can actually add it as a flavor to your quiche. You could add it to your popcorn as a flavor option, but it's also rich in B vitamins. So you can get it at farmers market. You can get it at Seven Andes. It's one of your options for flavorings, and it's an alternative to salt. So as we know, hypertension is a real issue. So you want to kind of explore your flavorings, your spices, your herbs that you can actually flavor your foods with. And nutritional yeast is one of them.
Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And now I think we're almost at the end of the conversation. And so my fun question for you, it's fun but not fun. But if what is your um what do you recommend, especially since right now we're filming this in the month of March, and this is um about to be the holy month, but also it's intertwining with all of the faiths right now. It's Lent,
Ramadan, yep.
Lent,
Lent.
Ramadan. So what is your recommendation for fasting? Because there's lots of ways people do it, right? So what is your recommendation of fasting and why people do it?
I mean, people do fasting for many different reasons. People fast, and not just in the Islamic faith tradition. People fast, within the Catholic Church, within the Jewish community. People at the beginning of the year, they do a Daniel fast, and some of the, Christian communities. So it's many different reasons why people fast. So my first question to you is, why are you fasting? What's your why? What's your intentions behind fasting, right? And let that inform you how you're going to fast. Some people fast where it's a total fast and they don't eat or drink anything. Some people fast where they fast from certain items, right? So, for 21 days, I'm going to cut out meat, right? So I'm actually eliminating specific items from my diet, right? Some people fast, but it's more of a juice fast. So they're not really eating solid foods. It's only, plant-based. So it's really, the question is, how do you fast? What's your motive? What's your intentions for fasting? I know in the month of Ramadan, it is a total fast for 29 or 30 days. So you want to make sure
From sun up to sundown, not like for the entire 30 days.
in about what, 2 weeks we got,
Yeah,
and we're going to
and
be fasting for 29
I
or
just
30
want to make
days.
sure because the way you said it, I know because I know, but the way you said it was like we fast for 30 days. You don't eat for 29 days.
Yeah, but when I say a total fast, that means you're fasting from sun up to sundown,
There we go.
right? So, and you have open window hours where you're eating, during your non-fasting hours at night, up until, early morning. You do have a window where you're eating, right? But then it becomes important to make sure you're eating the best foods to help fuel you, right? And to renew your intentions. Because what it is, you know, the holy month of Ramadan, it's really about the revelation of the Quran, which is our holy book within the faith, Islamic faith tradition. That's what it's really about. And then through that revelation, we have the discipline of fasting, right? So you want to look at it from not just, oh my God, I'm fasting, there's no food or drink during daylight hours, but you also want to look at it as a spiritual renewal, right? That's what it's really about. You're really taking stock, really asking yourself, you know, hey, where am I? Where do I want to be? Being mindful, being reflective, and making sure that you set your intentions about what you want to get out of the month, right? And then we focus on nutrition, you know, hydrating during non-fasting hours and things like that. But it's really a point and an opportunity for a spiritual reset. That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, oh, I want this Ramadan vibe to last for the whole year. After my 29 or 30 days, I want to continue this because it's such a blessed time. It's such a blessed month, right? We get so much out of it. And it allows us to focus more. We're not eating during the daylight hours. So what are you focusing on? That's the question. What are you getting out of it? How are you being more mindful, you know, focused and centered and really benefiting from the month?
I love that. And what's also coming up for me is that's true. Like you spend less time trying to figure out what am I gonna cook, what am I gonna eat, what am I gonna cook, and that's reminded me of I had a godmother, um, who we always admired her health goals. Was one, she was truly holistic to the point where she actually chose a raw food diet. Now I didn't really get into the nitty gritties of like how did that happen, but what of course this is another one of those diets. And how do you try it? And what do you recommend for those who prefer raw food diets?
I recommend you ask yourself why you're doing it. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, I'll always ask intentions. I ask your why. I ask, what are you getting out of it? Like, what prompted you to do it? Some people have a health scare, or, you know, I just want to include more, you know, raw foods into my diet. I want to eat more, you know, fruits and vegetables and things like that. What's your philosophy? Like, some people have a specific, you know, vegan philosophy, right? I'm going to be vegan. But that takes time and preparation, and you really honing in and being passionate about your why, right? You know, I love raw foods, but my diet is not my diet is not totally raw, right? So again, I think it's important to realize that it's not cookie cutter. It's based on what you want to get out of it. It's based on your overall health and wellness goals, right? And then making sure that you're preparing appropriately. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we get in it and we say, oh yeah, this sounds like a great idea. But then you actually test it out and you're like, you step back and say, this might take a little more preparation on my part, or I might need to do a little more research and see how I can actually get all the vitamins and minerals that I need, right? How can I plan accordingly to make sure if I'm going to do plant-based or eating raw, whatever your dietary philosophy or nutrition strategy is, that you're preparing accordingly to support your overall health and wellness, and not just because, oh, such and such is doing it, right? You have to examine your why and making sure or ensuring that you're getting everything that you need, and reach out for support, because there are people that are doing very well, right? You know, professionals. Reach out, make sure you have a member on your team that can help prepare you and inform those decisions so that you can be successful in whatever program that you undertake.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And one last question that the audience is asking is, what about meal prepping?
Yay, meal prep. Meal prep is great. It's funny because I was just talking to a client the other day about meal prepping and say, yeah, we love to meal prep. It's great, but you have to be open-minded, right? Some people don't like to eat the same thing for 5 days. Some people say that's unrealistic, right? I'm not going to eat the same thing for 5 days. So you want to ask yourself, what am I meal prepping? What do my recipes look like? Do I have a plan when I actually go to the grocery store? How long am I doing this, right? So that when you do bring those foods home, you know exactly what recipes they're going into, and you can reduce food waste, right? Yeah, you can do more plant-based. That's great. but identify if you are gonna do meal prep. How am I prepping it? Does my kitchen have what I need? Do I have the supplies and appliances that I need to meal prep? And then identifying foods that you're actually going to eat, and that it's not going to go, raw, or it's not going to go bad, or you have to throw it in the trash can. You want to definitely make sure that you're identifying for how many days you're going to meal prep, what type of meals, so that when you go grocery shopping, you have a very specific plan, right? It takes time. It takes focus. But it's not impossible, right? It's very doable. You just have to have a strategy going into it. I think that's the biggest piece of it. And I meal prep during the week. It's just easier to have a theme, to know when Tuesday comes, this is what we're eating. When Friday comes, this is what we're eating. It just makes it overall easier to help streamline that process, especially in a month like Ramadan. So I'm not thinking every single day, what am I cooking? No, that first week is already, we know A, B, C, D. This is what we're doing. It's already planned out. I'm not spending hours in the kitchen. If it's not 30 minutes or less, it's a wrap, because I have other things I need to do, right? I need to focus on, my schedule. I need to focus on my worship. I need to focus on my family. So if I can streamline the, nutrition and the meal planning part of it, that actually helps me overall, because that's less time that I'm spending in the kitchen. So, and we talked all about this in our Taste of Faith class. We did a 4-week, and next week is our last week, a 4-week Ramadan prep. It's called A Taste of Faith. And we talk about, meal prep and, prayers and everything about Ramadan as we welcome Ramadan. And the ladies are really getting a kick out of it. Some of the resources that we shared. So
I love that. And this is actually a really good conversation, because there's so many people struggling right now, especially with going to the grocery store without a plan. And then next thing you know, they're cheating themselves.
they're
So
cheating, and they're upset, and they're frustrated, because they're like, you know what, forget it. Just order Grubhub. Forget it. Throw in the towel, because we didn't prepare for it, right? Some of us don't make a shopping list when we go grocery shopping. So we shop and impulse items and, stuff we don't have a recipe for. And then we get home and we're looking at it until it spoils on the table, right? So yeah, a plan is important.
Yeah, that's super important. And I'm reminded, when I grew growing up, my mom actually introduced me to reading labels. Like, some people don't even like going to the grocery shopping with me, because I'm gonna take a look at everything. Everything. I'm gonna look at the labels. I'm gonna look at if it's truly organic. I'm gonna look at all of the things. And so, what is a way for people to see differently? Like, if they're around people who are like that, what is the way to have people, see differently around that? Those
About
kind of.
reading labels.
But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of the label reading process. Of course, when you read a label, you're looking for what? Saturated fat, cholesterol. You're reading your ingredients. You're looking for fiber, protein. There's a lot on that nutrition facts label, right? So, I mean, the biggest thing is, of course, really, when you approach it, you're looking at, hey, how can I reduce things like saturated fats, added sugars, and my sodium? Those are big ones, right? So you're really just looking at how to streamline that process. What do I need? Like, do I need to reduce sodium? Do I have hypertension? Do I need to increase protein, right? And what are some of the higher protein foods that I can include in my diet, right? What are we looking for? And not make it, super difficult. It really doesn't have to be difficult. It just has to be something that you put in place, and that you keep it, or you form it as a habit, right? So we're looking at, salt, sodium, fat, fiber. How can I improve my fiber intake? A lot of us don't get 28 to 35 grams of fiber for the most part. So how can I increase fiber just step by step, portion by portion, as I plan my meals, right? So looking at that. So it really just depends, again, on what your nutrition strategy is. What are you trying to get out of it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, I think I'm asking for me now, because I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and the minute you mentioned the word fiber, um, I thought about how, literally, like you said, if I don't have enough of that fiber, I don't have bowel movement.
You
I
will
do not
not
have
have
bowel
bowel
movement.
movement. And
Yeah,
that's not nice.
no, it's not. And I too realized that if I don't have a bowel movement that day, I'm more tired, I'm more cranky, I'm more irritable. And I think that's the most important thing of like, um, what what one thing for people to keep in mind when it comes to, I think bowel movement health.
Bowel health is really important. Gut
Yeah.
health, really important. Making sure, are we being active? Are we getting enough fiber in our diet? Are we staying hydrated well enough? Those are three things that actually contribute significantly to your bowel health, and making sure that you're not constipated, making sure that you're having regular bowel movements, right? That's really important. Looking at the importance, and someone mentioned the importance, of course, impact on our mental health, and I actually have resources around that. Really just looking at the importance of eating certain foods that actually help positively impact our mental health, right? We all know the importance of antioxidants, especially for in your condition, or your case with the PCOS. Specifically, what's recommended is anti-inflammatory. And what that boils down to is less processed foods. So somebody mentioned, shopping on the outskirts of the grocery store. Some people don't shop at grocery stores. Some people shop at farmers markets, right? I think the key point to drive home is to include more plant-based options in your diet, right? Making sure that you are, again, limiting the amount of ultra-processed foods, the excessive amounts of added sugars and salts and fats, to really get back to the basics of eating well and what that looks like. Whether you shop at a grocery store, or you're at a farmer's market, or you order for delivery online, right? Having that core, having that foundation of what your nutrition strategy is going to look like.
Mm. Now, I'm thinking about our family members that have diabetes, had passed from diabetes, had passed from heart attacks, and especially in the Black community. Like also that partially, for those who don't know about polycystic ovarian syndrome, a lot of times there's different kinds of polycystic ovarian syndrome, and one of them can actually have you borderline diabetic. And so I'm really thinking about if you could just say it in layman terms of really the impact of sugar in our bodies and how that affects all of us.
Excessive amounts of sugar, and where the sugar comes from, right? Again, back to reading your labels. How do you know how much you're eating, right? Read your labels. A lot of things have added sugars, right? So when we're looking at overall, we're looking at how much sugar is in our foods. Your sugar impacts everything from your blood glucose levels, your weight, okay, inflammation. There's so many different things that if you're looking at excessive amounts of added sugar, or consuming excessive amounts of added sugar, can actually impact, overall health, right? So we're not talking about, oh, I had a little fun size candy bar. We're talking about overall, every day when we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and beverages, really take stock in how much sugar that you're taking in, right? I teach a food as medicine class, and they said that the average annual intake for sugar for the standard American diet for Americans is 152 pounds. That's a lot of sugar, right? So you have to look at, where is that coming from? How are we getting it? And then can I be more informed as a consumer as far as what steps to take to limit the added sugar consumption, right? And that's really in our beverages and snacks, and cakes and things like that. And some condiments, it depends on what you're cooking with, and really just being more mindful about where that added sugar comes in, and make a concerted effort to really reduce the added sugar. And we're not talking about sugar from fruit, naturally occurring fruit. We're talking about added sugars, right? Refined, processed foods. That's what we're looking at specifically, because that's where the majority of it will come from.
That's super helpful, and that was a lot of great information. Now I'm just like, y'all need to go work with it like ASAP. So how can people find you on social media first and foremost, and what are you offering the listeners to work with you?
Okay,
And then,
great. It's interesting because I had a few offers, but really just resonating with my clients, and what they're telling me, what they want to see really. One is a Nutrition Foundation's annual membership. And that's basically you work with me for a year, and we basically really look at what your nutrition strategy is going to look like. Some programming throughout the year that's included with your membership, checking in with me once a month. And then some people just want, hey, I need the information. And then, we can check in and kind of see how you do. I have some people come and there's like, I'm working with my doctor. I get referrals from the doctor, and they really just want to really get their nutrition streamlined, especially if they're pre-diabetic or new onset diabetic. They actually want to take initiative and say, hey, I want to really prevent trying to get on, trying to be on insulin, or if I'm on insulin, trying to come off. And that's where the nutrition therapy piece comes in, and we work with them, every month until we can really work on getting their A1C down. So, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram. And I like the process that we do when we have our clients. We actually, sit down with them and talk to them about their why, and really dig deep on where they want to go from, their current status, and then build a plan specifically for them so that they can get the results that they want to achieve.
Great, super helpful. And so all the links are gonna actually be in the comment section, and in an email as well. So this is really, really good. Now to wrap things up, like really, really wrap things up, thank you so much, Yaqutullah. So my final question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? That's funny. People say they want to leave wealth for their family. They want to leave wealth, right? That's great. Our community needs wealth. But our community also needs health, right? So a lot of times, it would be awesome to have, especially, I have a kid now, right? To pass down that health, that legacy of health, right? Generational health. How about that? Where the people that come after you are not plagued, right, with what you had to go through, whether it's diabetes or heart disease and things like that. And they look at it from a perspective of prevention and not, oh my God, I have diabetes, now what do I do, right? Generational health, looking at how can I prevent this in the first place, right? And being more proactive, top of mind from the onset, right? And how can I be better? How can I prevent this from happening? How can I take a concerted effort to take my life, right? And be more proactive in how I want my life to be, instead of being reactive and saying, oh, well, now that I'm dealing with this, let me go see what I can do. Okay, now that you're dealing with it, you can go see what you can do. But as a community, really approaching it from a preventative standpoint, right? And being able to include that in your process, include that in your community activities, whether it's, eating better, exercising, including that as part of family activities, whether you're at the church or the mosque or the synagogue, including things like, hey, races, hey, there's a race or a run coming up, or, things like that in our community fall activities or whatever it may be. Really looking at how can we shift the focus to look more at improving our health and wellness as a community, right? And being a part of that legacy. So that's what I want to be a part of, so that when we have all this money, we can actually enjoy it, right? Because we're not necessarily on, dialysis 3 or 4 days a week, right? We're actually able to get out and enjoy life and contribute to our community, right? Yeah. So that's what I want the legacy to be.
Here's to seeing life differently, eating differently, and
hydrating, moving differently, being different, right? It's all good. That's what we want to be.
Absolutely. And if no one else got anything else from the conversation, would be one sentence, what do you want them to take action on?
Ask yourself where you want to be. Ask yourself, what do you want to change about your current health and wellness? Like, what one thing do you want to change, right? Be realistic. Write it out. Write it as a goal that you want to achieve, right? And then align yourself with like-minded people who can help get you there, right? A coach, a professional that can help you realize your goal.
I love that. Thank you, Yaqutullah.